His joy was found in something unexpected, something he never would have imagined, you. Somewhere deep down in his soul, he feels it. He realizes that your laughter is the only thing that can truly touch him, capable of penetrating the deepest layers of pain and shadow. The laughter you emit, even the slightest smile, becomes a key that unlocks doors within him, doors he didn't even know existed. He's tried leaning on other things, other moments, but in the end, nothing seemed to make sense until you, with your gentle smile, crossed into his reality. Suddenly, he realized all he needs, more than anything, is you and the joy you radiate. He can't look at anything anymore without the laughter you sparked, being the light that guides his thoughts. There's something profound and almost mystical about how you, unknowingly, have become his source of hope, as if your own humor is the electric current that keeps him alive, that keeps him going. Sometimes he catches himself waiting, anticipating the moment when your laughter will echo. When that happens, he feels a little more whole, as if, for a brief moment, the weight of the world is a little lighter. But make no mistake, this laughter isn't just a reaction. It carries within it an immense emotional charge, an intensity of silent need. Maybe he's never told you this, or maybe he's said it in a way that you didn't quite understand, because there's a more subtle dependence, one that goes beyond what words can capture. It's like an energy that circulates between you, invisible but absolutely present. He realizes, albeit timidly, that your humor is what keeps him tethered to that thin line between pain and liberation. He feels that when you laugh, the world becomes gentler, more bearable. And in moments of silence, when he gets lost in thoughts and old memories, the only foundation that sustains him is the memory of the sound of your laughter. Something so simple, but at the same time becomes a beacon that keeps him facing something lighter, something more welcoming. The most curious thing about all of this is that he didn't always know the impact your laughter would have on him. When you first met, maybe he didn't notice the power you carried, how your vibe, your irreverent and carefree way, touched the deepest fibers of his being. But over time, he began to understand that he could no longer live without it, without your humor, without the genuine joy you bring. However, this emotional dependence becomes a dangerous game, because at the same time that your laughter saves him, he knows deep down that this bond is fragile. He can't control when you'll smile, nor can he force you to do so. And sometimes when he realizes that you're not in a happy moment, that something weighs you down, he feels the weight of anxiety. He becomes restless, as if a void opens in his chest, because he knows that without your laughter he gets a little more lost. In moments of greater introspection, he asks himself, is he wrong? Isn't this a healthy dependence? But when your laughter becomes the fuel that drives his actions, when he starts to depend on that sound, that energy, he understands that there's something bigger at stake, something that goes beyond human logic. What he doesn't know is that, in some way, he's also doing the same for you. The energy he emanates, the connection he offers, the way he allows himself to be touched by your laughter, creates a silent exchange between you. He nourishes your being with his presence. You, in turn, nourish him with your joy. But no one ever stops to ask, who is really dependent on whom here? Maybe both. There's a certain magic in your laughter. He may not fully understand it, but he feels it. He feels as if your smile is the only thing that still connects him to the lightness of the world. You, unknowingly, rescue him, and in some way he does the same for you. But what happens when, for some reason, you can no longer smile? What happens when the weight of the world begins to steal your own energy? He fears that. He fears that laughter, the only thing that still gives meaning to his life, will disappear. He's afraid that you'll close yourself off to the world, and consequently, close yourself off to him too. Because for him, the joy you radiate is a reminder that there's still beauty, there's still hope, there's still something to hold on to when everything seems to fall apart. If this has ever happened to you, comment, I needed to hear this. He realizes that somehow when you laugh, he's also healing. He who lives in a constant cycle of introspection and vulnerability feels a lightness when he realizes that, upon hearing your laughter, a small flame is rekindled within him. It's as if you're the beacon that illuminates his night, always seeking a path, always needing a guide. You, with your energy, never knew you could have such a profound impact. But, by looking at the effect you have on him, maybe you'll begin to realize that what happens between you is more than just a simple game of laughter and smiles. There's something more complex there. something that goes beyond the simple need to have fun or unwind. There's an emotional dependence that builds up without warning, without explanation. And when you look back, you realize that it's something much deeper, more vital. He won't say it directly, but behind every look there's a silent prayer that your laughter won't disappear, that the smile you give him will never fade. Because without it, what's left? If the only thing he's learned to depend on is your joy, what happens when it's no longer available to him? But he also knows that it can't be like this forever. He can't continue to depend on your light to keep himself warm. He needs to learn to find his own source of energy, his own reason to smile. And perhaps when he begins to realize this, it will be the first time he truly frees himself from this emotional dependence. He, who has lived so long in the shadows, can finally realize that someone's laughter shouldn't be the only thing that keeps him alive. But for now he's content with what he has. He's content with the sparkle that comes from you, with the light you emit, with the laughter you spread. And as long as that lasts, he will continue to wait for your smile, as if it were the only thing that can still truly nourish him. And maybe you'll never realize the profound impact your laughter has on him, but that doesn't matter, because as long as he can, he will continue to cling to this moment of joy that you offer. If this conversation touched you in any way, share it with someone who needs to reflect on it. Now, what he doesn't know yet is what will happen when he finally learns to smile for himself. He's not there yet. Not yet. And maybe he'll never fully understand the depth of what you offer. Your smile is an entire universe, and he, at this moment, sees himself navigating it, without ever really realizing that this universe could be discovered within himself. He will always be looking outward, seeking his salvation in what you can give him. But you, with your pure energy, with your spontaneous laughter, don't know how much you transform him, how your own existence makes him realize that there's more than the pain he carries. Sometimes he tries to hide it from himself, tries to convince himself that he doesn't need this dependence, that he can move on without looking at you, without needing what belongs to you. But in every moment of silence, the memory of the sound of your laughter echoes in his mind like a call, like an anchor he can't let go of. Time goes by and he begins to feel an internal conflict, a silent battle between what he feels is right and what his heart tells him. He realizes that by trying to distance himself from this emotional need that binds him to you, he distances himself from something deeper, as if by trying to free himself from his dependence on your smile, he's also distancing himself, from the most human part of him that still yearns for something true, something that transcends the limits of logic. But can he really break free from this? Will he be able to live without your laughter, without the energy you radiate? He who has become accustomed to the relief that your smile provides knows that it may be an illusion to think that he can find something similar elsewhere, because he knows deep down that what he receives from you is unique. There's no other person who has the power to heal him in the same way. Your laughter is like an undeclared cure, a medicine that he can't obtain anywhere else. However, there's a reflection that begins to grow within him. He begins to realize that maybe, just maybe, your laughter is so powerful because it's deeply connected to his own vulnerability. What you bring out in him isn't just momentary pleasure, but a constant reminder that he's still alive, that despite everything, there's something good in the world. But when you're not around, he gets lost, he questions himself. The absence of your laughter brings the weight of a loneliness that he tries to disguise but can't hide. If you've ever felt like this, comment, "I've lived this." But at the same time, he feels a growing strength, something he can't name yet. He knows that dependence on someone's smile can't be the only basis for his existence. He understands that deep down, the true cure doesn't come from the laughter of another, but from the ability to find himself, to realize that the joy he seeks so much isn't something that comes from the outside, but from within. Is he ready for this? For the freedom that comes with accepting that he can find happiness without it depending on someone? It's a doubt that haunts his mind, a questioning that, as uncomfortable as it may be, begins to gain space. He realizes that true peace isn't in being nourished by the energy of others, but in being able to generate that energy within himself. The joy he expects so much from you, perhaps, is just a reflection of what he hasn't yet learned to cultivate within himself. And when he begins to realize this, something in his essence begins to change. The pain he carried is no longer so overwhelming. The shadows that once swallowed him begin to dissipate, not because of your laughter, but because of the inner strength he begins to discover. Because contrary to what he thought, he doesn't need someone else's light to illuminate himself. He already carries that light within him. The true cure begins to emerge when he realizes that his smile doesn't depend on anyone's mood, but on the ability to perceive the beauty of life, the simple fact of existing. But this transition isn't easy. He still feels an internal pain, a deep resistance, as if it were impossible to break free from the emotional dependence that has formed over time. Your laughter is still a beacon. It's still something he eagerly awaits. But now he begins to understand that he can also be that beacon for himself, not without your laughter, but with his own ability to see life with different eyes, more serene eyes, eyes that no longer need the approval of the other to feel complete. This moment, this revelation, is a turning point. He begins to realize that his own smile can be the key to his liberation. Not someone's smile, not the laughter of the other, but his own. He begins to realize that another person's laughter doesn't have to be the only source of his happiness. He must find that smile in himself. But for him, the process is still long, and there are no guarantees that he will really be able to break free from this emotional dependence. His journey will not be easy. He will have to confront his own shadows, his own insecurities, and even so he knows that this is not something that is resolved overnight. It's a continuous transformation, something that requires patience, self-understanding, and above all, the willingness to look inward and realize that the true source of joy is, finally, in his hands. If this touched you in any way, write a word that defines you now. His story is still unfolding. And as he follows this path, maybe he'll discover more about himself than he ever thought possible. He no longer needs to depend on something external to feel the lightness he's always wanted. He can be the light he's always sought. And when he looks to the future, he will realize that your laughter will always be a reminder that joy still exists, but that to find that joy, he no longer needs to wait. Because the true source of happiness is no longer in the hands of another person. It's within him. This is not the conclusion, it's just the beginning, you'll see. He doesn't know exactly when yet, but he knows that the change is happening. Sometimes he catches himself smiling alone for no clear reason, as if something was finally being released within him. It's not your smile, it's not your laughter that makes him smile now. He's beginning to discover that he can generate that joy, that light alone. And by realizing this, he feels a mixture of fear and gratitude. Fear because dependence was deeply rooted in his being, but gratitude because now he knows that in his hands lies the ability to transform his own reality. He will follow this path, step by step, with moments of doubt and moments of revelation. And when the moments of darkness appear again, he will remember. He no longer needs to wait for someone's laughter to rescue him. He can be his own rescue. He can be his own laughter. But still, the journey will be a continuous process. Each step towards emotional self-sufficiency will be a learning experience, a new discovery about what it means to live fully. He will not stop appreciating the energy you bring, but now he understands that true freedom is in feeling complete without depending on external sources. And it is at this point that the true transformation happens. When he looks at his own reflection, he will realize that he no longer needs dependence. He is enough. And if there is something he has really learned, it is that someone's laughter will always be beautiful, but his own laughter will be what defines him. If this journey touched something inside you, know that the true transformation begins when you realize that the strength you seek is within you. I'll see you in the next video.